Hello, and it is Thursday, and we're continuing along in Acts chapter 19. All right, so some amazing things happened in the last section. Amazing miracles happened. People were confessing their deeds. They were burning the books of witchcraft because, boy, we need to make sure we're right with Jesus. I wish more people actually thought about Jesus like that in their lives. And we get to verse 21. And when these things were accomplished, Paul purposed in the Spirit, when he had passed through Macedonia and Achaia, to go to Jerusalem, saying, "After I have been there, I must also see Rome." So he sent into Macedonia two of those who ministered to him, Timothy and Erastus. But he himself stayed in Asia for a time. And about that time there arose a great commotion about the way. For a certain man named Demetrius, a silversmith, who made silver shrines of Diana, brought no small profit to the craftsmen. He called them together, the workers of similar occupations, and said, "Men, you know that we have our prosperity by this trade." They were making idols to this God. They were selling it. They didn't worship this thing. They worshiped the money they got from selling it. And what had happened? The people were coming to know Jesus and realizing, hey, he's God. This idol, that ain't God. That's nothing. And they were losing their money. And so these guys get together. And so he called them together, the workers of similar occupation, and said in verse 25, "Men, you know that we have our prosperity by this trade. Moreover, you see and hear that not only in Ephesus, but throughout almost all of Asia, this Paul was persuaded and turned away many people, saying they are not gods which are made with hands." Duh. Think about it. If you can make your God, just think of those words. If you can make your God, that means your God's not as powerful as you. God has to pre-exist you. God has to be eternal. God has to be more powerful than you. God has to make you. You can't make it. But a lot of people try to make their own gods. And you wonder why they fail, because they're not gods at all. There's only one God. All right. And that's Jesus Christ. So where are we? Moreover, okay. All right, 27. So not only in this trade of ours is in danger of falling in disrepute, but also the temple of the great goddess Diana may be despised, and her magnificence destroyed, whom all Asia and the world worship. So all their hard work is about to go to nothing. We built this great temple. We did all this, put all this money, but it's worthless. We got to defend this. Think about this. Does God need defended? No. God defends you. He only asks you to share the good news. He doesn't ask you to defend him. He's good enough to do that. When he says, when you speak and he needs to defend himself, he will give you the words to say. God does not need to be defended. Something that's not a God, well, that if a God needs to be defended, they are not a God. Now, verse 28. Now, when they'd heard this, they were full of wrath and cried out, saying, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians." So the whole city was filled with confusion and rushed into the theater of one accord, having seized Gaius and Aristarchus, the Macedonians, Paul's traveling companions. And the city's confused. Jesus is doing this great thing. Now these people are complaining of Diana. I mean, they're like, what's going on here? By the way, we're not attacking Diana. We could care less about Diana. So confusion has reigned, and the devil's going to try to do that when God does something great. When God brings great revival, there's going to be great confusion as well, because the people who don't quite get it yet, they're not going to understand what's going on. We need to show them. And Paul wanted to go into the people. The disciples will not allow him. And some of the officials of Asia, who were his friends, sent to him, pleading that he would not venture into the theater. Some therefore cried one thing, some another. For the assembly was confused, and most of them did not know why they had come together. Yeah, people were all saying jibber jabber. One says this, one says that, one says that. They don't know what's going on. And they drew Alexander out of the multitude, and the Jews putting him forward. And Alexander motioned with his hand and wanted to make his defense to the people. When they found out that he was a Jew, all with one voice cried for about 2 hours, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians." For 2 hours they cried that. What a sight that must have been. They were really riled up. If anything, it's like, why are you doing that? Jesus did this, and this thing's it's actually helping Jesus out in a great way. And when the city clerk had cried at the crowd, he said, "Men of Ephesus, what man is there who does not know that the city of Ephesians is the temple of the guardian of the great goddess Diana, and the images fell down from Zeus?" Now think about it. We're the guardian of it, right? But Jesus comes in, does a whole bunch of miracles in the face of Diana. Doesn't that show that the Diana doesn't exist at all? That Zeus, boy, this is happening in Zeus's thing. He's supposed to be the god of gods, the god of thunder, all this, and they're all quiet. Why? Because they don't exist. And Jesus just walks in and does something. Therefore, since these things cannot be denied, you ought to be quiet and do nothing rashly. For you brought these men here who are neither robbers of temples nor blasphemers of your goddess. They weren't even attacking Diana. They were just sharing Jesus and letting the people what? Decide. That's the key. You can't force Jesus down someone's throat. You got to let them decide. Therefore, if Demetrius and his fellow craftsmen have a case against anyone, the courts are open. There are proconsuls. Let them make their charges against one another. But if you have any other inquiry to make, it shall be determined in the lawful assembly. For we are in danger of being called into question for today's uproar. There being no reason which we may give account for this disorderly gathering. When he had said those things, he dismissed the assembly. Now, here's a neat thing about the end of this story. They're worried that the Romans are going to come and do something because of a disorderly gathering, because of the uproar. Now, let's go back to the beginning of Acts 19, where Paul shows up. God does some miraculous things. Handkerchiefs, people get healed. Even the spirits are gone. The sons of Sceva incident happens, and then people come. Hey, I want to get right with God. Let's burn our works of witchcraft. Let's confess our deeds. Now, here's the thing: great, mighty revival was breaking out, but it didn't cause a disorderly uproar. See, when God does things, and when He's truly in revival, things are going to be done orderly. And it's going to be in a way where it doesn't bring anything into disrepute, doesn't make God look foolish. Some people try to make God look foolish. You don't need to do that. God will do things in an amazing way where amazing things happen, but it doesn't look disorderly. It doesn't cause an uproar. It just exudes love, joy, peace, all the fruits of the Spirit. What an amazing thing that is. And that's how you know the difference. If you go to a Christian thing and it's just totally craziness, and people are confused. Remember, God's not the God of confusion. He's the God of order. It says in 1 Corinthians chapter 14. He's not the God of, actually, he's not the God of chaos, but chaos and confusion, they kind of go hand in hand. Like when you go in there, you're going to have a sense that this is what God really wants. What an amazing thing. Had a person recently come to our church, and she had been to a bunch of churches. And she came, and she lives pretty far away. It's a good drive. And she says, when I came into your church the first time, I didn't know what to expect. Heard some things. Remember, if you're going to do things for God, people are going to say things. He said, I walked in, I felt the presence of God. I felt it just all worked. See, that's what God does. And that's where you need to find yourself. No matter where you live, no matter where you're watching, you need to find a place where it just flows naturally, supernaturally, orderly, and it doesn't cause an uproar, and it doesn't cause confusion. I hope you have a great day. Remember, Jesus loves you. I love you. And you're absolutely awesome.